start the webinar and welcome people. YouTube live public. All right, you are live now. Okay, so I am going to hand it over to you, and then I'll let you know. YouTube live public. All right, you are live now. Okay, so I am going to hand it over to you, and then I'll let you know. YouTube live public. Let's see. Just making sure. Edit video.
Oh, YouTube tells me that this is alive.
Yeah, it's live.
Wow, I've never had a webinar before. It looks cool.
You're gonna do amazing, I'm sure. Sorry, I'm just like I have a guide that LingoDeer sent me, so I'm just making sure.
Take your time. Don't hurry. Let's make sure that everything is settled before we go straight into it.
So, I am going to make you the host right now. Okay, there you go. Make host. Okay, so you're now the host. So do you see how it's different on the lower bar now?
Oh yeah, I see. There is this Q&A part. Yeah, I can see it. Because now there are two. One is called question answer. One is called chat. I mean, I don't know what they should be called, but because my software is in Chinese, but I can see that there is one more button here. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
And on the top, it says now it's in the preparation mode. And when I'm ready, I click here, then it will start broadcasting.
Let's share your screen first and troubleshoot that first. And then you can
yes, I can do that.
So you can just click the,
Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, I see your screen right now.
Yeah, so now here's my slide. Yeah, so this is the first page. Is everything good?
Yeah, so let me check.
Should I like go through it a little bit? Hi, everybody, here's my personal information. Here's the agenda. Here is, what?
Can you turn on your camera?
My camera? I thought it should be on. Wait a minute.
It's not on right now.
Oh, it's here. Oh, yes. Yeah, now it's on.
Okay, cool.
Hi, do you see me?
Let me wait a minute to see an update on YouTube Live because it's delayed.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay.
I'll also like try to show how to make my... Yeah?
Oh wait, I don't know why your camera. Okay, so you can stay right there because if you go any closer, it gets cut off on YouTube Live. I don't know why.
If my person goes closer to the camera?
Yeah, wait, like here, I'll take a screenshot and send it to you.
I mean, now you can see my whole face, right?
Yeah, I can.
That's good. It's just sometimes it's like when I'm talking, I would just like naturally go close to the screen because it's like my fingers would like do something on the screen like that, something like that.
Let's see. Hold on. There's like a weird thing on YouTube Live. Let me send it over to Cecilia.
We still have 10 minutes. You can take your time to figure the things out. And if it's like connection is not good, I don't mind not turning on my own camera.
I think usually with all the webinars, they've been showing.
Yeah, I think usually, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know how to call this, but it's like the lecturer would show the face. I also watched Hyun's webinar. I think that's the best. But if there's a technical problem, then we can also try to adjust.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait for Cecilia to reply about this. Then we can. Okay, she's checking on YouTube right now.
She is so supportive. Now it's like really late in China, I think.
Oh, someone asked on YouTube, is this for Japanese? Yeah, it keeps going in and out. I don't know why. Change. Is there a cover photo? Sorry.
Did you receive me sending you a photo?
I don't think I did.
I
I don't know, but
I think Skype just sucks.
yeah.
I'm like sending you a photo and it's like taking forever. There's just that arrow there. Oh, fuck.
Let's see. Maybe upload. I don't know why. That's it. Oh gosh. Let's start this in. Okay, save as desktop. Great. Why is my computer being slow? Ah, no. Oh my god. I don't know why it's not uploading. How weird.
Is there any problem you're encountering?
Yeah, my computer's just lame. Hold on. Let's see. Okay. Oh no, we have 3 minutes. We'll get there in time.
Hey girl, we're live. Are we live right now?
Yes, we are.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it would only start after I pressed the start broadcasting.
Where is it?
I hope nobody heard what I said before. What is that sound?
Oh, it's my airdrop.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, now it's changed. Okay, so Gina, whenever you're ready, you can.
I can click the start broadcasting here. Should I start it?
Yeah.
Okay. I just clicked. Oh, I see people coming in. Hello. Hello, people. Greetings from here. Hi. Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for coming. Okay. Let me see. Mm. Okay. So because this is a So hi everybody. I think are we ready to start? I think you can use the Q&A box, and there's also a chat box. So now if you have like any questions already, or if you just want to say I'm ready, let's go, you can feel free to type in anything at any time. Hi. Thank you so much for coming. It's really excited for me to have this opportunity to have this webinar with you guys. Oh, hi, from Frankfurt, Germany. You're not far from me. Yeah, maybe you guys can now take the time to like type in the chat, say where you are right now and why you're interested in linguistics. And if you already have some questions that you want, that you want me to answer later, you can also just put it in the Q&A box or in the chat right now. So the webinar will officially start in a few minutes when like more registered users come in here. Oh, that's cool. You're in Canada, so now it should be morning for you, but here in Europe, now it's in the afternoon. Oh, another one from Germany. Hi, we're in the same time zone. Yeah, I guess everybody, whether you're just a LingoDeer user or I guess everybody here, we have a reason because we're all interested in languages. Cool. Studying Spanish and Japanese. Korean elective. English language and child language acquisition at college. That's really cool. I also studied English language when I was in college. Well, yeah, I can see that most of the LingoDeer users are really interested in Korean, Japanese. Oh my God, people here are so good. Germany as well. We already have a few from Germany. Tatarstan, Russian. I'm here just because curiosity. Yeah, learning Korean. I think the LingoDeer's curriculum for Korean is like really well designed because I also know Korean and yeah, and if you guys like are interested in keep learning, whether it's like reading culture articles or it's just language notes or something, please follow LingoDeer blog. The website is should just be lingodeerblog.com. Yeah, you can get access to the blog through the app or through the official website. It's like the place where LingoDeer runs and the keep updating like language notes and lessons and cultural notes as well. Wow. Hi from Spain. Wow, watch anime without subtitles. That's pretty remarkable, I'd say. So many from Germany now, I agree. Hi, joining from the UK. Good to see you. Cool. I mean, we have so many polyglots here. Spanish and Japanese for school. I guess they are like really useful languages. Mandarin, Japanese, and Korean. Yeah. If you're interested in these Asian languages and somehow they have like this underlying relations with each other, if you like have a good foundation in Mandarin, especially the Chinese characters, then learning Japanese and Korean will also be significantly easier for you. I am just checking how many participants we have right here. Oh, sick of reading terrible subtitles. Yeah, that's indeed a problem. And a lot of the times the subtitles are just machine translation and it doesn't really tell you the information. Yeah, but the good news is that whether it's Korean or Japanese, you really have so many resources to watch and learn from it. Europe right now, another person here. Oh, another guy living. I mean, I don't know if you're a guy, but another person living in Germany. Cool Japanese and Korean. Yeah, good languages to learn at the same time, but it's also a little bit easier to mix. They're similar, but similarity makes it easier, but also makes it easy to mix. So you need to be careful about that. Yeah, I really also have to show respect to people learning multiple Asian languages at the same time. It's pretty hard. It's a tough thing to do. Hi, from the UK, learning French and German at school and a bit of Korean and Japanese for fun. Yeah, they're good languages to learn for fun because you can watch anime or TV shows and so many things just to get rid of the subtitles. That's a very good motivation. Oh, is there any story behind me knowing Dutch? It's not really a story to say because right now I'm living in Amsterdam and it's just a thing that although people here, they're absolutely amazing in English, but I also want to speak really their languages. Okay, I think now we have enough participants and we are ready to go. If you have any questions through this whole webinar, please just type in it at the chat or at the Q&A box at any time. Okay, so hello everybody. So first of all, for this webinar, here is a little self-introduction about myself. My name is Gina. You also saw it on the webinar poster. I'm from China, so my Chinese name is Jingnan, and it's shortened as Gina, and all my friends here, they just call me this. I'm currently a master's student in linguistics at University of Amsterdam. I'm enrolled in a program for 2 years, and now after the summer, I'm going to enter the second year of my study. I am from China, so Mandarin Chinese is my mother tongue. And then I also learned to speak English, as you know, and then Korean. Most of the Korean, I just learned it by myself and it worked pretty well. And then after I moved to the Netherlands, after this year and also before I move, I'm already starting to preparing for it. So now I also have a decent amount of Dutch. It's okay. Yes, and why am I related to LingoDeer? Is because now I'm actually a marketing intern at LingoDeer. It's been quite an exciting and interesting journey for me. I'm really happy to work with LingoDeer, although not in the part to like develop the language lessons, but also it's just really cool for me to share the intentions of bring fun and effective e-learning to people, to more and more people around the world. Okay, so here is the agenda of today's webinar. The first part is a quick introduction. Then I'm going to tell you what linguistics is about in general. And the second part is really to break down the subdisciplines of linguistics and tell you what do linguists do. The third part is application of linguistics, because I also see that some people here that they have the intention to study linguistics, whether it's in college or in some other forms of learning, but you might be wondering what linguistics can actually be used in our lives and what type of job that you can do with it. And the fourth part is just free Q&A session. Please just feel free to throw in any questions related to our topic that you want to discuss with me. Okay, then let's go straight into the first section of today's webinar, an introduction to linguistics. And here is a little game, two truths and a lie about linguistics. So here are three statements and it has two truths and a lie. Please type in the chat box to tell me what is the lie that you think it is. First statement, linguistics is about learning many languages. Second, linguists need to deal with data in many languages. Third, linguists find it easier to learn new languages. Let me see what the answers I'm gonna get. Okay, so now I think I see three answers that they say third one is a lie, and two people say first one, three. Okay, one more minute. I'm going to review the real answer to it. One. Any more answers? Three. 1. Anybody want to answer this question? Any more? Two truth and a lie? Just to find the statement that you think it's false. Okay, I guess it's time to review the answer. So the lie is actually, yeah, many of you got it right. The lie is the first one. So this is my quick introduction into linguistics, and it's about to clarify this misunderstanding that many people think that linguistics is about learning many languages, but that's not true. Linguists are not necessarily polyglots. They're just people who try to study how language works, and I'm going to give a deeper introduction into that later. And but they don't necessarily need to learn many languages. The second statement is true because linguists do need to deal with data in many languages, because most people think that human language, although they are exhibited in so many different forms, but they have this underlying universals under it, and linguists, they need to compare language data, and that's how they can make conclusions and find out how human languages in general work in human brains. That's like the ultimate goal. And the third one is true because linguists, they're usually people who have a good foundation in morphology, which means the formation of words, and also syntax, the formation of sentences. So they're just familiar with this like grammatical terms and concepts that people really need when they learn new languages. It's just like you don't necessarily need to be a linguist, but many people who already have experience of learning their second or third language, and they are more and more familiar with these devices that they need in learning new languages, then the process just becomes easier for them. And also another reason for the third statement to be true is that linguists, they're definitely passionate about languages, so they have the motivation to keep learning, and that makes it easier. Okay, so that is the quick introduction to linguistics, mainly to clarify a misunderstanding that apparently many people here, they still have. And now the second section is to give a quite comprehensive, I mean, not really deep, but quite comprehensive introduction to the sub-disciplines of linguistics and what do linguists actually do in their research and study. Let's go. So generally speaking, linguists try to scientifically figure out how and why people use human languages as they do it. So you can see from this statement that the work of linguistics, linguists definitely including a description part, and then it's like to find how and why the explanation part. So it's like a really broad discipline that you have so many things to describe, whether it's just from the surface to do language documentation, or is to really explore into the reason why something works like that. There are just so many aspects about it. So there is like nothing that I can really claim that all linguists definitely do, because it's a very broad discipline that if you specialize in different subdisciplines in linguistics, you can work on super different things. Hi, I see a person is raising the hand. Does it mean that you need to speak here? I mean, there are intervals a bit later that I can let people to raise questions. So can you please like wait a bit, and or if you have questions that you can type down right now, please just put it in the chat box for now, and we will have quick intervals to let you express your opinions soon. So here, let me go on with the introduction. So here, these are the 6 traditional divisions in linguistics that we call theoretical linguistics. And people who specialize in this, they try to figure out the aspect of language from sound to meaning, like phonetics, phonology about sound, and then morphology and syntax more about form, but also connected to meaning. And the semantics and pragmatics, they are totally study the meaning aspect of language. And after the theoretical linguistics, then some people like call the newer disciplines applied linguistics, but I just generally say that there are more newer approaches, and they are usually cross-disciplinary. As you can see from the names of these approaches, like psycholinguistics, historical linguistics, you can see that it's a combination of more than only one subject. And now we are going to go deeper into first what the 6 traditional divisions do, and then a bit later what the newer approaches, how they are combined with the other disciplines and how the people work there. So starting from the sound, the first 2 disciplines, they're usually placed together, phonetics and phonology, and they are also like, if you study linguistics in college, they're also usually placed together in the curriculum of colleges to be studied together because they're so closely related. The first one is phonetics, and it's the study of sounds in human language. And the second one is phonology. It's not to study the sound itself, but to study the combinations of sounds in human language. So one is about what the sounds are, and the other one is about what the rules are the sounds assigned in human language. So here is an example to let you see how clearly what the research is about. It's like really surface show things, but yeah, then you know like what the phoneticians and phonologists do. The example is how consonants are articulated in our mouth and how consonants are combined using English, for example. So here, phoneticians, they study how consonants are articulated. So here are the English plosives. There are 6 English plosives, and they're called plosives because they are the type of sound that you utter with a puff of air from your throat. And the 6 ones, they can be categorized into 3 minimal pairs. They're called minimal pairs because they're super similar to each other, except only a little parameter. So it's a p and b, they're placed together as the minimal pair of bilabial. So the articulation of them require to use both of your lips together. You can try to feel how you pronounce these sounds at the same time when I'm showing you. And the second minimal pair is called alveolar, and they're t and d. They're sounds that require you to use your tongue against your upper teeth and that part, the upper palate. And the third minimal pair is k and g. They are got velar sounds that you can feel when you utter these two sounds, that you need to let the air flow through your the velar part that is like deeper into your throat. And these three minimal pairs, how do we distinguish between the two in each pair? And the parameter in English is aspiration. So the p, t, p, k, t, these three in English, they are aspirated sounds. And the b, g, d, as you try to pronounce this example words like pie, kiss, tie, or buy, give, die. So the first three, they're aspirated, and the later three, they're unaspirated. By being aspirated, it means that if you like use your hand in front of your mouth, then you can feel this puff of air that goes out of your mouth. And this is an interesting thing. I mean, this is a basic thing that phoneticians discover, and it's also an interesting thing because how these minimal pair are how the contrast is formed is actually different in different languages. Like in English, it's aspiration, but in other languages, it can be voicing. Like t and g, you can also feel that English, it's slightly that d is voiced. If you touch your throat, you can feel the voicing, the vibrating there. But if you just do a t, it's not as obvious. For example, in Japanese, it's like they don't do aspiration. It's just all unaspirated. So that's why also during the coronavirus time, there are some scientists in Japanese scientists that they claim like why coronavirus is better contained in Japan is because they don't do aspirated sounds as much. So they don't need to like have this puff of air out of their mouths, so the virus is less contracted between people. I mean, this is only a theory, but you can see that this is a thing that people actually just care about. And then we move on to phonology. After the phoneticians, they figure out how the sounds are made. Then phonologists, they go into more into the language part to figure out how the sounds are combined, what are the rules that the sounds are aligned in language. So here is an interactive question again. What is the maximum number of consecutive consonants at the beginning of an English word? You can type in your answer in the chat box. 1, 2, 2, 3 at least, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. Some people think 1, some people think 3, 4, 3, 2, 2, 2. You can read the question again with the maximum number of consecutive consonants at the beginning of English word. 2, 2, 3, 3. Straight, for example. Yeah, this Bulat, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. You are pretty smart. Yeah, 3, like Christ. Yeah. Christ or school. School is not really a good example because it's like right at 3 letters there, but it's actually only 2 consonants there because yeah, it's only and because it's a after, so it has to be like D voice and be into school, but not school, but it's only 2 consonants there. Yeah, so as the discussion kind of already figures out, so the answer is 3, and we go from like obviously 1 is doable, that you begin the word with only 1 consonant, and 2 also sport, if you can see. There's so many examples. And third one, 3, spring. Yeah, it works well. But the 4th and 5th, you just cannot add anymore. This is the rule in English. And actually English, that it's the 3 as the maximum number, that it starts with S and then a plosive. That's like the only possibility that you can, just as another person used the example straight. I mean, that is actually the only possibility in English that you can put a consonant cluster of 3 at the beginning of a word together. Okay, well done, you guys. Oh, so talented. Yeah, 3 is the correct answer. Okay, then that's about the sound aspect of language, and then we're moving to the form of language, morphology, and syntax. They each study the formation of words and sentences. So, are you still with me? Any questions so far? Am I going too quickly, or now we can have like a small interval, and you can raise questions. What about the person who raised their hands before? Do you want to say your opinions now? Okay, so I see here is a question in the Q&A box. I'm going to look at this right now. I am mainly learning Japanese. My brain will mix up German and Japanese and can't find the right words. How can I stop this happening as much? I have to say that this is actually a very common problem for people. And I guess in general, the key is just to keep practicing. And it's actually a thing that you feel that you cannot find the right words. But the truth might be that because different languages, they have different cultures and they bring different connotations. So it might not be that you cannot find the correct words, but you are finding the two correct words because I mean, this is a classic example that some people say it's false, that the Eskimos, they have 30 ways of describing snow. So if you know the language of Eskimos, then you are actually not, you're actually being able to use the most correct words to describe snow, although this is not translatable into other languages. So if you're just speaking with people who like also share the same language background as you do, then code switching is code switching means the exchange of different language when you speak. It's a very, very common communicative strategy. Then you can use that to communicate your meanings the most accurately. And if you don't, and you just need to stick to one language, then I would say that the best way is just to immerse as much into that language environment, and then you will cultivate the sense how to express yourself fully in that language. Where does tone come into this? I always get confused with the tones in Mandarin. So I'm only going to take 2 questions during this interval, and we're going to have more time for me to answer the questions later. So where does tone come into this? This is a very good question. So actually, tone is also the field of expertise for phonologists. That so in phonology, there are like also different parts of it that you can even break it down into smaller fields. Like this one is what we would call phonotactics. So it means like the yes and no rules of how sounds are combined in phonology. And also there are levels above this that goes to the word and a sentence level. So we call it prosodic structures. So whether it's like the prosodic feature of a language, whether it's just the stress or the tone, and or you goes to the sentence level and feel that it's almost a universal thing that in those languages, when you raise a question, you raise the tone at the end of the sentence. So these are all belong to the field of expertise of phonologists. Okay, so those are the 2 questions I'm going to answer during this short break. And I hope you're still with me. And if you have the questions that I didn't look at yet, I'm going to answer them later. And if you have new questions, please just feel free to enter the Q&A box at any time. Okay, now we move into the form of language. And there are 2 levels here for morphology and syntax. And these, we categorize them into 2 subjects, but they're actually so related with each other that we say there's this morphology syntax interface in there. A lot of people also specialize in that these days. So morphology studies the formation of words, and here's a very classic sample of the word derivation in English. So here is only a derivation of words. There also morphology also deals with inflection, but inflection, of course, as you it means like the conjugation of verbs and the form change of verbs because of grammatical functions, and that part we can put it into the morphology and syntax interface, because the inflectional changes are so related to the structures of the sentences at the same time. So let's look at this word. It's a very long word that nobody would really use in their real life. But if you take a closer look, you can see that it's actually a word that makes a lot of sense, that you can just see how it is made up. Like the stem as a verb, it's establish. And then you add a suffix, make it establishment. And then a prefix, dis, another suffix to make it an adjective, and then another prefix to negate it again, and then ism to make it a noun. So this is the derivation of this very long word, and this is what the morphologists study, that they study how words are made up, and there is this hierarchical order inside the word. As I show you, that it's actually a temporal process, that you add one suffix and one prefix at each time. It's not that you add all the suffixes, because it doesn't work. Okay, and then we proceed to syntax. It is the study of the formation of sentences. And this is a super interesting case, because now syntax, when it comes to sentence structures, is also related to meanings. So a lot of people now, they also specialize in syntax and semantics interface. And this structural ambiguity is a very good case to show you the relation between the sentence structure and meanings, because you cannot really say like completely divide them into different views. So here is a sentence. It's like pretty simple. John told the girl that Bill liked the story. But if you read it again, you find, oh, it's actually a bit ambiguous. You can take your time to read it like for 2 or 3 times. And then what do you think John told the girl? And what did the sentence give us the information about the girl? There are 2 possibilities. One is that the John told the girl, and the contents of what he said is that Bill liked the story. Another possibility of the sentence is that John told the girl that Bill liked a story, right? But this is just a sentence, and the words are exactly the same. So why can it have 2 different readings? And then this is the job of the exploration of syntacticians, and the answer they would give is that because although it's only one sentence on the surface, but it's actually a sentence with 2 possibilities of different underlying structures. So it's not because of the words differ in the sentence that makes the meanings differ, but because of the structure, the underlying structure of the sentence that differ, that makes the meanings of the sentence differ. So one is that this is a that clause that is under the scope of the verb told. So this is the contents of the verb told. And this one is that the told, and that is actually a part to modify the girl, but it doesn't belong to the scope of told. And that's why the meanings are so different. And structural ambiguity is a very good, like direct example of how syntax works, because it's really important. And then we're getting into the meaning of language. Are you still with me? And now I can also take some time to answer the questions. More questions. Oh, curious. Does psychology not counts as 4 consonants, and if not, why? Okay, so psychology, it's not 4 consonants because in English, the P, it's not pronounced. It's psychology. It's only 2 consonants there. Oh, no. It's, I don't know what you mean, but I mean, if you look at the spelling, it has a few letters that is usually represent consonants there. There are actually 5 letters there, but like psi, I is already a vowel. Although it's Y, it's sometimes it can be a consonant pronounced as E, but here it's actually a vowel and it's pronounced as I. So here is like psi, S is a consonant, I, K is another consonant, O, logy is a perfectly aligned word that there's not even consonant clusters in there. Yeah, so the sound of the language is, because in English, a good thing is that English is actually making sense enough that the spelling can reflect the pronunciation, but it's not always the case. Cool. Let me see, is there new, sorry, is there new questions here? The pace is fine. Would Y also count as a vowel there? Yes, you can say that English is tricky a lot of times. Yes. So what? Yeah, Y is a vowel in psychology, but if like it's a word like yes, then it's YES, then Y here is a consonant. But it's just sometimes people, they just think of like A-E-I-O-U. These are the typical letters that represent vowels, but the spelling and the real pronunciation is actually, there's still a gap in there. So you really need to be careful. Yes. Okay, I guess the problems are solved and we can move on, do we? Okay, do not depend on the letters, but on the sound. Would work as just one. Yes, CH, it is one consonant. It's just like ch. It's I cannot type IPA on my keyboard right now, but it's, yes, it is a consonant, but it is only one consonant. But the spelling can be tricky, just like U, that U, people usually think of it as a vowel letter, but if it's like pronounced as U, like uniform, then actually if you use IPA to represent it, then it actually starts with E sound. So it's U, and then it's not a vowel letter. It's not a vowel there. It's actually a consonant there. At the beginning, I mean, it's not this whole U sound, but it's just at the beginning. So you say a uniform, not an uniform. Okay, cool. And then I guess we can move into the last part of the 6 traditional divisions. We are getting into the meaning of language. As I already said before, that we call those previous 2 approaches forms of language, but you cannot really purely just to study the form of language. It's always intertwining there, but you can have a different emphasis on the specialization. So, but these 2 these 2 divisions, they are like purely about meaning, and they're called semantics and pragmatics. So semantics and pragmatics, they are respectively the study of explicit and implicit meaning of language. For semanticists, they study the logic of language, like and also lexical semantics, like this is also combined with a little bit of etymologists, but they study the literal meaning of language. But pragmaticists, they study the part of the meaning that is not expressed in the language directly. And here is an example. So this example is that A is a person and he asks, are you coming to the party tonight? Then B is probably the answer of a semanticist, because the logic of the language is that if you raise a question that it starts with are you or do you, then this is a yes or no question. That's the logic. Then you answer it with yes or no. But C, it's probably the answer from a pragmatic perspective, that the answer didn't have the word yes or no in it at all. Instead, this person said, I have an exam tomorrow. So if just on the surface, you see, I asked you if you're coming to the party tonight, but this person say, I have an exam tomorrow. This is totally an irrelevant answer. But if you are a socially okay human being, then everybody understands it, that it means no. So how this works, that you say something, but the meaning is not expressed, the yes or no meaning is not expressed through the form at all, then that is the work of pragmaticists. And this is actually also a super tricky part about human language, because the meaning is not always encoded in the literal form itself. So this is also a challenge for like artificial intelligence to a very much extent. Okay, so those are the 6 traditional divisions of theoretical linguistics, and then we are moving into the cross-disciplinary approaches. Basically, it's like in linguistics plus X, because it's cross-disciplinary, so it's usually like linguistics, the knowledge of the language itself and also the knowledge of another subject, that they can be combined together to better study the different aspects of language, especially like in the society or applications. The first, but because there are so many subdisciplines there, I only pick out a few that I'm going to talk about in this webinar. But if you have questions about like more possibilities that you can think of, we can discuss that later. So the first example here is psycholinguistics, and you can see the formation of this word. It's psychology plus linguistics. And psychology studies how human mind works, and psycholinguists study how language is processed in human mind. So psycholinguistics, some people say that neurolinguistics, like the neurology in linguistics, is categorized under it. But I mean, neurology is also maybe only a part of psychology. And an example for this approach is first or second language acquisition, because language, I mean, everybody in psychology it's labeled as a higher cognitive ability that is unique to human beings. So first and second language acquisition has always been the topic that we can say it's still a mystery so far, how baby actually acquire language. And for second language acquisition, how people can, what are the exactly rules are, and why people lost ability to acquire language like a newborn baby, and how this can be, what are the natural rules there. It's still, so many linguists are still exploring this. And another cross-disciplinary example is computational linguistics, and you can see it's computer science plus linguistics, and it's study of how language is processed by machines. And there are certain tasks that is already pretty well tackled these days, like named entity recognition. It's the definition is to automatically find names of people, places, and organizations in text across many languages. So basically, our today's technology is pretty remarkable, but we cannot say that we can build a machine that is that can perfectly just understand human language. So usually the application of this language technology is broken down into specific tasks, like just to ask the machine to extract information from like a lot of text, then this is actually helpful to human beings enough. And named entity recognition means that you recognize the proper names from the text. And this is pretty well tackled, but as I mentioned before, like the indirect expression of meanings, that is still like a very big trouble for computational linguistics. The third example that I'm going to say is the sociolinguistics. And you can, as you can see from the word formation, it's sociology plus linguistics. And the study is about the sociology of languages. So language is actually a very human thing and also a very social thing for people in societies, that it's very much related to your interactions with other people, that you need to use language as the medium there. And as I mentioned before, that code switching is like a good case for that belongs to the study of social linguistics. So when you like switch the language, like why would you do that? What's the motivation behind there? And it's kind of like a natural act. So that is like the social dynamics between people. And here's an example. It's the relation between one's accents and social status. And it's pretty well exhibited in the famous movie, My Fair Lady. So it's a university professor that trained this lady who used to be like a super poor girl, but by transforming her accent to be of to be similar to people of a higher socioeconomic status, then she also successfully became a lady. And then this is also the social dynamics among human society that is reflected in languages. So that is the study of the social linguists. So those are the second part. I know now it's a lot of information. I hope you guys are processing well and are still with me. But those are like a comprehensive introduction of many exemplary subdisciplines in linguistics. And maybe now you already found a particular one that you're super interested in. Then the next section might be more, you feel more relevant with our lives, because it's about the application of linguistics. And especially if you're a student, then you can pay attention to this section, because it might give you inspiration of, if you study linguistics, what you can use it to do in the future. Okay, so the first, like the most popular application of linguistics is to incorporate with technology, and a typical job title is NLP engineer, and NLP stands for natural language processing. So there are unnatural languages like artificial languages, just like computer programming languages, but the bigger, but computers, they can understand computer programming languages, but it's hard for them to understand natural languages, which is a very human thing. So that's why this is what this artificial intelligence scientists are trying to do all the time. So how can the knowledge of linguistics work here? So usually it's like an NLP developing unit. It would be a team consisting of both linguists and computer scientists. So the job of linguists is to decide what information of in the language that a machine should learn in order to tackle the task. And computer science, their job is to build the machines, to build like the machine learning models to actually process information in order to achieve a great performance. And the second application field, which is also important, but it might not, it might be ignored by a lot of people, but it's so important, that is language therapy, because it's only like a minority of people that they will have language disorders, whether it's acquired or it's just inborn, but this is a very big challenge for those people. So language therapists, their job is to use their linguistic knowledge and also some clinical expertise to help that specific target group. And the job title can be language therapist, or it can also be clinical linguist or speech pathologist. The job title can differ, depends on what your specific function is. If you're like more research, then you can still be labeled as a linguist, but if you're like actually doing the therapy, then you can be labeled as a therapist. And in the picture that you can see here, language therapy, that there are many language disorders that we can think of, like stuttering treatment is actually super hard, and it's a super hard thing to tackle. It takes a lot of effort, both from the therapist and also the patient, to conquer this problem. And then dyslexia treatment. Dyslexia is pretty, I think it's paid attention to in like the US or in Europe, but in certain countries it's not really paid attention to, but it is a natural developmental language disorder that afflicts a lot of people. And also aphasia. Aphasia means the loss of language in your brain. A lot of cases of aphasia can happen like after a person is hit by a car and suddenly a part of your language function is just becomes dysfunctional. And then at this point, the clinical linguists also need to go in there to whether to do language documentation. Then you document like what the problems is and which part of the brain is hurt. Then it's a further step for you to understand how language works inside human brains. And also you can analyze, also the linguists, they analyze the speech disorder with the reference to data of typically developing individuals. Typically developing individuals just means normal people. And then in a comparative way, then you provide the best therapy for your target patient. A third major field where the linguistics people landing a job at is the translation and localization management. The job title can be just translation and localization specialist. So translation has always been a field that many people works on as long as they know more than 2 languages. And also today machine translation is also pretty, it's already pretty good, but it's still a huge challenge there because machine is never perfect. And also translation is not merely just to put the words of one language into the other. So that's why today localization becomes a term, and that is like more emphasized by the businesses who need the service. For example, Netflix is like one of the biggest video streaming platform in the world, and they offer their resources in so many different languages, and they're constantly looking for localization experts. Just like people who complained about the subtitles before, like the bad translation of subtitle is just to directly transfer the word. But if you're watching a thing, especially something like stand-up comedy, then if you don't get the reference in the culture, then it affects your real intake of the information so much that you cannot understand it at all. But localization experts, they would usually have the linguistic knowledge and also the cultural knowledge, and even more things like about the demographics and so many things. They use all these expertise they have together to really put the contents of one language and transform into the one of another language that can be really accepted by the user of the second language. So that's why it is important. There are a lot of companies that they need localization experts, like not only video streaming, but also like international technology companies. Yeah, basically it. And last but not least, a super important part, and also a part which attracts almost everybody here today. It's a language acquisition / education. And if you're a language acquisition expert, then you would know what are the natural development stages of language acquisition, whether it's first language or second language, and then you use the insights from the scientific knowledge to design a curriculum that can best teach a language. And the examples of proven science in language acquisition or language acquisition can be like, for example, you've been using apps that utilize spaced repetition, whether it's the part that is in LingoDeer or an external app that only for word memorization, that spaced repetition is a proven science to best fit the natural rule of memorization for human brains. And also using flashcards, the form itself it's just very good for memory strengthening. And then a lot of people, they might misunderstand that. They think if they want to improve their listening comprehension, they need to try to listen to like natural rate of speech, but that is not necessarily true. You should start by using slow and clear recordings for listening comprehension improvement, because that is actually the best for you to grasp the phonetic and phonological features of this language, and then you can gradually turn up the speed and finally become master in listening to this language you're learning. And there are so many other points that a language acquisition expert will study and then apply it to real language acquisition or like some type of consulting work. Yeah, and yeah, these are the important parts. And the LingoDeer users, you should also know that LingoDeer app actually has a very scientifically developed curriculum, and all the forms of the exercises, they are all backed up by the scientific knowledge of language acquisition or education. So that's why it's an effective app, and we are using it, and it's helping us a lot. Yes, so that is my comprehensive introduction part of today, and it's been like more than 40 minutes, and then now it's time for me to answer any questions you have, whether it's about linguistics or language learning, or it's just then we can discuss everything. Okay, as I see here are some questions that I haven't answered yet. Okay, when people think of artificial languages, they morally think of examples like Esperanto, but does sign language also count, or because it has many native speakers, has it evolved differently? Yeah, Esperanto is a good example of artificial language, but sign language, they are not they are natural languages, but maybe some of the sign languages are created by human beings. I don't really know that. This is not really my field of expertise that we can research, and I can answer a question later. But sign language as a whole thing, it is a natural thing that you can imagine. Because actually, I've listened to a lecture of like a professor nowadays, but she used to be a girl that is from a very isolated village in Turkey, and in her village, it's like the people there, you know, in a village that everybody's relatives, and there is a problem there that a lot of the family members of this whole big village, that they are just born to be deaf, and people there, they are very isolated, so they don't have really like official education, but the people, they developed this sign language to communicate between themselves, just within the family members by themselves. So it's totally a natural thing. So as I think, I'm just assuming, I think sign language together with also our spoken language, it can be a natural thing in the beginning, but later it will be like regulated by officials that add some a little bit like artificial part into it. Just like the spoken language, we also see like, for example, the French government, they're like changing the guidelines of what is actually the correct way to use like certain aspects. Um, maybe like even just every year. And you can say that French language is a natural language and evolved today naturally, but the specific details, it might be regulated by the authorities and people. And that's how the standardization of the language adds the artificial element into it. But you cannot deny the fact that the language itself is still a natural thing. Okay, and then the next question is regarding aphasia. Has there been any discoveries of how humans think without language through that? I don't totally get this question. So does it mean that if you think like people, they are hit by a car and then they lost part of the function, then it affects their thinking? I don't know. I think it depends on like how specifically where part of the of your brain is damaged. It's just like deaf people that they don't have the spoken language as we know like this. But of course, like deaf people, they can think in their brain in a form that I don't know of. I think aphasia people that they can think, and to what extent that they can think without language, it depends on how much brain damage they undergo specifically. But and a lot of aphasia, it's that the people like there are very specific types of aphasia. Like some people, they can speak perfectly, but when they need to write, they totally lost it because only the part of the brain that controls it's more of the motor part that you need to write lost it. But of course they can speak, but they can speak and then they can think in their brain. Okay, so those are the questions I got here. Do I get more questions in the chat? Or if you guys have any more questions, please. Really fun and informative. Thank you for doing this. Oh, thank you so much. Mantan and Yangmar. Oh, this is really good comment that I got. Thank you so much. Thanks, Gina. Very interesting. Okay, yeah, stay safe, you too. Do you have any tips on remembering tones? Okay, I do think that tone is a very difficult part for Mandarin Chinese learners, and actually, I don't think the problem for learners of Mandarin Chinese is to remember tones, but actually to recognize tones. It's just when I like talk with absolute beginners, and then I show them the difference between ma, 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 and they were like, is there any difference in there? So I think the key is to first to be able to recognize the difference of the tones, and then once you just can detect a difference there, and that takes a lot of effort, and it's actually also unfortunately proved by science that people, their brains are their ears and brains are best tuned to their first language phonetic features when they're about 6 to 12 months old. So you don't have to be sad that trying to hear Mandarin tones is hard for you now, but you should also feel lucky that you are a master in your first language, because you already acquired at the age of 6 to 12 months old. Oh, thank you. You have to go. Stay safe. Do you have any advice on time management when learning one or more language? Okay. So my suggestion is that if you are learning one or more language, I think starting like if you're like starting both languages, as both absolute beginners, it can be really hard because you need to acquire both the basics in both languages. And according to my personal experience, I think the very first early stage of language learning, no matter what type of like fun and effective textbook or curriculum you use, it has to involve a little bit of mechanical memorization at that time. Just if you want to start off in Japanese, you need to learn the 2 tables of kanas. And if you want to start in Korean, you need to know the Korean Hangul, the Korean alphabet, and that part definitely requires mechanical memorization. So my advice would be that try not to start off as absolute beginners in 2 languages at the same time. But if, for example, if you're learning Korean, Japanese, you first master the basic of one of them, and then you start in the second one. You can find that these 2 languages, they have similarities in their pronunciations, and they also have similarities in their grammars. Then this will be easier for you. And about specific time management, my advice is just try not to give up. Like LingoDeer app sends you a notification to practice every day. Try to keep it up. It's learning language is the thing that once you stop it, it's just you grow the inertia, and then it's hard to keep up again. I mean, not only learning, you think of it as like an effortful thing. If you're just playing Animal Crossing and then one day you stop, you might just not pick it up again. That's true. And what do you do in my internship at LingoDeer? Okay, this is a very good question. So my internship at LingoDeer is in the marketing department, and what I would do, my main responsibility is to run the LingoDeer blog. As I mentioned before, that's the LingoDeer blog. They update the language notes or cultural lessons in different languages, like in the mainland, in all the languages, in almost all the languages that LingoDeer teaches. So because I speak Korean, so mostly I do content creation in Korean language articles there, not Korean language articles, but articles on teaching Korean language. And also my job responsibilities include like to research the user habits of foreign users. LingoDeer is for like the users overseas, and also to research the competitors to LingoDeer, the other apps, and also do content creation and copyright different genres of text that we need to use for the promotional or marketing purposes of the company. Yeah, and then also just to brainstorm marketing ideas. So I learned a lot about marketing before. I learned a lot about marketing in this internship that I have no idea before. So I learned a lot, and it's been a challenging and interesting experience. But because of the situation this year, you know, it's a remote internship. So I think when I have a chance, when I go back to China, I'll try to visit the LingoDeer company, because I've heard that they have a really beautiful office. Okay, I hope I didn't talk about you too much. Yeah, but overall, it's cool. It's a great company. I enjoy working at it. Okay, is it better for listening comprehension to watch a movie or series with or without subtitles in the same language? In the same language, you mean the language in the original, the soundtrack language, but not the language in your native language, right? Yeah, I would say that this depends on your current level of expertise, if you are still like a basic beginner and you know nothing, then doing this is like you can learn nothing from it because you don't understand it at all, and I think you would lose the motivation. But once you have the level of competence to like understand the basic conversations and understand like a lot of the language you're learning already, I think you can try to watch a movie first. You can try to watch it without subtitles. And of course, you need to like pick a suitable movie for this. I would suggest like if you are still in not advanced yet, you can start by watching the cartoons. Just like if you're learning English, then you watch the Disney cartoons. And then if you're learning other language, you try to find the same level of thing in that language resources. But I mean, Japanese anime is not really the type of cartoon that I'm talking about because it's like the target audience can be adults. But if you watch the things that is more targeted for teenagers or younger people, then also the language they use will not be too hard. And also you can try to read some children or teenage books in that language. That is actually a good point for you to start. And if you are watching something that is quite difficult, like if you watch a movie about law, then the lines that's going to appear there is definitely going to be difficult. Then you you should try to add the subtitles, preferably in the original language. And if it's still too hard, you can add both the original language and your own language. And you can also take it slower and take a careful look at both languages and then understand and try to understand the contents. Okay, so now it's okay, cool. So now it's already past an hour and I don't see new questions. So I say let's wrap up this webinar, and thank you everybody for joining. It's a great experience for me and I really enjoy sharing the knowledge about linguistics, and hope that you get more inspiration for your language learning and maybe also interest in learning linguistics by yourself. Okay, so that's all for today. I'll say thank you. Bye, everybody. Yeah, I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and please stay safe in this global pandemic. Thank you. Bye. Hello? Chloe, you here?
You can end the call now.
Okay.